David, before you start real fast, I wanted to just
Sure.
check with John. I believe you're my evaluator. Did you get my form? Do I need to send it to you again? Can't hear you.
I could not unmute myself for some reason. I do not have your form. If it's possible to send it.
Yes, I tried to use the website. I guess I messed up. Sorry. I will email it to you again.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we'll get that sorted out momentarily.
With this last 1 minute, do we need our chat monitor and R counter for Jim?
That would be appreciated. Anybody?
Anybody
Come
want
on.
to speak up for R counter, please?
Not everybody at once.
I can do chat monitor, Adrian.
Adrian, will have
Adrian,
chat
thank
monitor.
you.
Thank you.
And what else?
R
should we-
monitor.
What else do we need? We need an eye counter.
R counter, please.
Our counter.
Oh, I think.
Norman, did you raise your hand?
I
Norman,
can
you
do
got
it.
it.
Thank you. Thank you, Norman.
All right. Try this again. Okay, this meeting will be recorded. This meeting is already being recorded. We record our meetings routinely so that we can have an instant replay after the meeting, mostly for the members' educational purposes, but sometimes we may use some excerpts from stills or video clips as part of our public relations and marketing for the club. And if you continue past this point, you're agreeing that your picture may be captured on video and immortalized. Welcome to Online Presenters. This is a club that meets online, and we're also focused on learning skills for webinars and online events. Oh, you don't need to hear about that because that's over, but we're going to be talking about doing another mini webinar contest. We do want to thank Ring Central for allowing us to use their online meetings software, Ring Central Meetings, at no charge. It is integrated with a number of other products, such as the GLIP collaboration tool you see here. And they do want me to let you know that the cloud is winning in business communications and collaboration, and Ring Central is winning in the cloud. During these meetings, we encourage you to use some kind of audio device that's going to prevent feedback. In a pinch, earbuds will work, or some kind of a headset. My headset is busted, so, or something's gone wrong. So I'm actually not using a headset, and if we get bad audio from Dave, well, you'll just have to critique me on it later. It's a good idea to mute your mic when it's not your turn to speak. So those controls are in the lower left-hand corner to turn your microphone or your video on and off. You can also toggle back and forth between a gallery view where you get to see everybody and the active speaker view where you get to see the person who is speaking at that moment. So usually once the formal speeches start, you would want to go into speaker mode. And also there is a way of controlling the video because it shifts back and forth depending on where sound is coming from, basically. And when you are the presenter, it's a good idea to pin the feed from the timer so that you can actually see those green, yellow, and red indicators telling you that you're running out of time. If you are a visitor and you're interested in becoming a member, we ask you to attend at least 2 meetings as a guest. This is an advanced club. It's not for absolute beginners. So we look for either people who have a certain amount of Toastmasters experience or who have other skills that allow us to justify waiving that requirement, such as online education and presentation experience. With that, it is showtime, and I will turn control of this meeting over to Jim Barber, who will get us organized. So.
I assume you're being hopeful.
Yeah.
When you say being or get us organized.
Let's see. I'm trying to, oh. Dave doesn't know what the hell he's doing with the software. That's the problem. Okay. Just a moment.
I certainly won't know, so.
All right, now you have the host controls, and that
Cool.
means that if you go into the participants panel, you will see the magic mute all button, which you may need to use from time to time. That will mute everybody except you. That could potentially include the active speaker. You can also hover your mouse over anybody's little thumbnail picture and click mute, and that will shut them up. So
Okay.
you are all powerful, sir, and I will mute myself.
All right. Then let's try to get organized, which is not going to necessarily work well. I'm Jim Barber. I'm your Toastmaster of the evening, and this is my first time not being Toastmaster. I've done that a couple of times, but this is my first time at Online Presenters Toastmasters. It's also my first time on an online meeting. It's my first time trying to use the software that David is so skilled at. So this is going to be a little bit of fumbling around. Please bear with me. Be gentle. Let's see. Let me introduce my supporters because I'm going to pretend that they know what they're doing even if I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see. The first person we have is our substitute counter. By the way, Chuck had signed up to be counter, but he couldn't. He's having technology issues. So Norman stepped in. Norman, would you please explain what you're going to be doing this evening?
Okay. I will be listening to all the speakers, looking for filler words, those things that we interject when we are waiting to say something. We forget ourselves, ahs, ums, wells, so's, words like that. I'll be counting those and reporting at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. And let's see, our timer this evening is Graham. Where did you go, Graham? I saw you a moment ago. There you are.
I'm still here.
Cool.
I'm your timekeeper for this evening. What I will be doing is presenting images that show you whether you have a green light, which means that you have reached the minimum time required for you to complete your assignment, yellow to say that you've got to the halfway point, and red, which means by now you should be seriously thinking about shutting up. I was going to bring you some really cool Australian banknotes, which are green, yellow, and red, but I thought, no, that would just be showing off. So that will be what you will see tonight when I remember to do this. So I'll be timing you and making sure that we are using our time effectively and, more importantly, not stealing somebody else's time.
Very good. Thank you, Graham. And our grammarian this evening is Scott. Scott, what will you be doing?
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. My role of the grammarian is to introduce the word of the day, and taking it directly off our agenda. The word of the day is procrastinate, which is a verb, delay or postpone action, put off doing something. And the example is, I should have selected the word of the day several days ago, but I procrastinated. And I shall put that into the chat box so everybody can have a look at that. I also will be listening carefully to each speaking role, making notes of all grammatical errors, highlight use of effective and interesting words and phrases, identify who uses the word of the day, and provide a report when requested near the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Our watcher this evening. Watching is something that is different to online clubs, and it's illegal in some areas, actually. But here it's not only a legal thing, it's a wonderful thing. Our watcher this evening is Viviana. Viviana, what are you going to be doing?
Yes, thank you, Jim. I will observe the visual presentation, like body language, slides, and also your presence. Thank you.
Thank you. Our vote counter this evening is going to be Deborah. Deborah, what will you do?
I'm counting votes.
Well said.
Real simple and clean. So just remember to send them to me, and then I'll count them, and we'll go from there.
Outstanding. Thank you. And our chat monitor, last minute chat monitor this evening is Adrienne. Adrienne, what will you be doing?
Hi, it is my job to monitor the chat and talk about anything that you think is important. And at the end of the meeting, I'll summarize everything. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Adrienne. And now let me, okay. I'm just checking the chat to see if there was anything that anybody was yelling at me or something. Almost ready to get started with the speakers, but before we do that, our first speaker, Rachel, could you pronounce your last name for me?
Friggin' Briggin.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty. Are we ready to get started then? Let's do it. Our first speaker this evening is Rachel Briggin. Rachel Briggin is a mother, Toastmaster, and risk and compliance auditor using her speaking skills to open the door of opportunity. Having earned her ACB and ALB, she is on her path towards a DTM. Good for you. Please welcome Rachel Briggin.
Thank you, and I'm very nervous. Some of the most beautiful artwork represents a time period in history. It is history of time and place that makes the mark on the world. There are stories of artists and painters that have helped us understand what their art depicts, the movement, and gives us a glimpse into their soul. There are still, however, artists that we never get to truly understand. The only information that we get is what we see on the canvas. These painters, they live, they die, and they paint. And they never truly understand the impact that they've left on the world. Fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests, this artwork represents a man who suffered in life emotionally and financially. Vincent Wilhelm van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853 in the Netherlands. Nothing more than a starving artist, the only time he sold a painting was one to his brother. Unfortunately, Van Gogh suffered from depression and lunacy. And it's here where I want to tell you a story of a man who succumbed to internal pain, strife, and lust. In one of history's most famous stories, The Cut, known round the world. History tells us there was but one account of this story of December 23rd, 1888. But let's give a little background. At the time, Vincent van Gogh was living in the south of France, in Arles, France to be exact, in a rented house. It was his desire to start an artist colony in the south of France. You see, he was trying to become self-sufficient, self-reliant for his whole entire life. He had been financially supported by his brother. So he reached out to his friend, Paul Gauguin, and pleaded with Paul, please, Paul, please come to the south of France. Please help me build this colony. And Paul, with nothing else to do, because he was such a conceited, self-absorbed man, eventually came into his request and said, okay, Vincent, I'll come to the south of France, see what all this hoopla is about. Because Vincent idolized Gauguin, and Gauguin saw this as an opportunity to kind of put himself on the map, to tell Vincent exactly how to be a painter. When Gauguin made it to the south of France, he was completely stunned. He looked at the paintings that Vincent had been working on and saw something in those paintings he had never seen before. He saw movement and feeling and depth in these new paintings that Vincent was doing of countrysides and sunflowers. And Gauguin now saw him as a competitor, not just a mentee, but as competition. But for the next 2 months, the two worked together side by side. But like the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. And so on December 23rd, 1888, the subject of inviting other painters to the south of France came up. Gauguin was adamantly against it, saying, no, absolutely not. I don't need anybody else to help me or to teach me. But Vincent was pleading with his friend, please, I need this to be financially stable. And Gauguin said no. And so Vincent's lunacy took over. He grabbed a weapon, lunged at Gauguin, but then turned the weapon on himself and cut off his earlobe. He wrapped up his head and then went for a walk with his earlobe in hand, went down to the local nearby brothel and gifted his earlobe to a prostitute. Now imagine that prostitute who was in utter shock with an earlobe in hand. She immediately went to the police. And luckily for Van Gogh, they found him unconscious, took him to the hospital. And the next morning, Vincent woke up and pleaded for his friend to come. But unfortunately, in the night, Gauguin has packed his bags and left. And that is a story that history wants you to believe. But like every good history story, there's always a conspiracy theory. And this story is no different. Two famous German authors, Hans Kaufmann and Rita Weingast, provided a different scenario. And it goes a little something like this. Yes, on December 23rd, 1888, Vincent and Gauguin had an argument. In fact, they were arguing about the topic of inviting other artists. And Gauguin was adamantly against it because he saw the growth that other artistry brought to Vincent. And in his self-absorbed way, he's the one who raised a weapon, and he's the one who lunged at Vincent van Gogh and cut off his ear. Now, many believe this to be actually the truth because many knew that Gauguin was a famous and excellent skilled fencer. But what would have happened? Gauguin would have been prosecuted. His friend would have gone to prison, and history would have been written a little bit differently. No one really knows if the ear mutilation was an attempted murder or an accident. But we do know this, the two never spoke again. The only time they spoke was when they wrote letters. And in those letters was a little bit of a depiction of exactly what happened that night. But in a secret brother blood pact, the details were never released. So we may not ever know the truth, but what we do know for sure is that for the next 2 years, Vincent van Gogh painted some of his most famous masterpieces, irises, The Starry Night. But unfortunately, he succumbed to his internal demons, and on July 27th, 1890, he shot and killed himself. Unfortunately for us, he didn't get to finish all of the paintings he was working on. And I think Don McLean said it best in his rendition of The Starry Night when he said, "And now I understand what you tried to say to me, how you suffered for your sanity, how you tried to set them free. They would not listen. They did not know how, but perhaps they'll listen now." And so this is the story of Vincent van Gogh, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Well done. You can sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the meeting now. Our second presenter this evening is kind of a newcomer to Toastmasters, Lois Margolin. Lois is working on her second DTM, Overachiever, and she's doing speech number 8 from the Competent Communicator Manual, Get Comfortable with Visual Aids. The title of her presentation is Massage Generations into Your Workforce. Lois, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. You can't get away from it. All the generations are here. You have to massage them into your workforce. I have to admit, as a business owner, I procrastinated. It was not something I really wanted to look forward to. However, now that I've done it, I realize how incredibly important it is to massage these generations into your workforce. Let's see. Why do we care about the different generations? Because you know what? They have different values, priorities. Hold on, for some reason my screen. Values, priorities, experiences, things that we need to understand. In 2016, the millennials were so large in the workforce that they overcame the Generation X, Y, and the baby boomers. But I digress. Let's go back a little bit. If you are a mature or a boomer, and I asked you this question, think real hard. How did Kennedy die? Most likely, you were saying he was shot in Dallas. If you're a Generation X, age 42 to 53, most likely you said in a plane crash near Martha's Vineyard. And if you are a Generation Y, you're saying Kennedy who? Let's try one more test. Who's Ron Howard? The matures, or those that are over 72, also known as the silent generation, see him as Opie. The boomers, 54 to 72, see him in Happy Days. And Generation X and Generation Y see him as a producer. It's a quick little test, but we do have a lot of different generations out there right now. Find yourself in here, but realize that no one person is one particular generation. We are all different generations. I'm going to concentrate on the baby boomers. I'm going to concentrate on Generation X and Generation Y. So the baby boomers, we were Wonder Woman and Superman. We could do anything. We looked at the world and said, you know what? We can be anything we want to be. The world is ours. We had incredible ethics. We are willing to work those long hours. We want that corner office. We are career-minded and a strong sense of loyalty. However, when it comes to employment, we have some fabulous positives in our backyard. We want to give back and leave a legacy. We are very dedicated to our company. We have the history. We understand where things are going. However, we do have a difficult time managing Generation X and Y. And why is that? Because we like the way things have always been and we don't want to change. But that doesn't mean we should procrastinate. We need to learn. In walks Generation X. And we all see them as these lazy whiners because they figured out something really important. They figured out how to balance work and life. They don't want to work those 60 and 80-hour work weeks. They don't want to believe that they're going to have Social Security down the road. They want their money now. So how are they for employment? Well, look at it this way. They are strong, successful salespeople, incredibly creative, good at negotiating, and very loyal. They're strong, practical, but they're cynical. They've seen what happened to their parents with Enron and some of those other places that just completely collapsed, and they want their money now. But most importantly, they're not idealistic. They don't care if you are working for Greenpeace or if your company has great morals. They care a lot more about the money. We come to Generation Y. Some also know this group as the millennials. Generation Y is amazing. They are diverse. They are multitasking, technological. Everything has to be now, now, now. And they really don't want to meet you face to face if they don't have to. And what's so great about Generation Y? They want to be free agents. They're going to change their job more frequently. They want flexible work arrangements. Socially conscious employers. They want to know that you are helping the planet. They don't want to be working for somebody who they think is damaging the planet. Don't give them old computers. They want cutting edge, and they want to be able to dress however they want to dress. Let's be casual. So the upside of the Generation Y is that they're creative. They have great ideas. They're multitasking, technologically savvy, and they've never heard of don't rock the boat. They like a challenge to get a job done, which could be a plus and a minus. And they do frustrate management. They need positive reinforcement. When I first hired a millennial, I realized that I was going to have to change the way we do work. I can't work 60-hour work weeks and expect my employees to do the same thing when they barely even want to come in for a full day. Some of them want to actually share a job. I had one employee I hired for 40 hours, and he came in the first day and said, I only want to work 5 hours a day. Is that okay? And you have to think about it. Is it okay? Can you make use of this? Decide what kind of employee do you need. Do you need someone that's innovative, current, or someone with a history of your company? Are you ready to take the challenge to join the generations? Can you be more flexible for your Generation Y and maybe change some of the parameters of your company so the boomers and Generation X can get the benefit of the Ys? For communication and benefits, boomers want to be email, text, plus they like that face-to-face. They want to look you in the eye. Generation X traditionally likes the email and the text, and Generation Y, text only. And as far as benefits, the boomers want to be in the newsletter. They want recognition. They want little awards. Generation X, they want the money. And Generation Y, you know what? It's okay. Give them time off plus movie passes. Knowing this information, I actually used it to my benefit. I had a manager who was a boomer who did such a great job. I treated him to a wonderful dinner for him and his wife. And I had a Generation Y who I ended up buying an espresso machine at the office. Benefits on both sides because I understood how important it is to massage generations into your workplace. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Lois. Thank you. Well done. Our third presenter this evening is also a relative newcomer, but a couple of people may have heard of him. Our president, David Carr, created a set of add-ons to WordPress that turn it into an agenda management tool for Toastmasters, in addition to being a marketing and recruiting platform for clubs. He has a WordPress for Toastmasters tutorial webinar scheduled for Wednesday, and in this speech, he will demo one of its essential features. Take it away, David.
Okay, it turns out that when I'm screen sharing, I can't find the mute, unmute button. Give me just a moment. And I don't see
we hear you.
Is Graham still here? Graham is still there.
We hear you.
Okay.
Yes, and I've stopped your timing because I'm a nice person.
That's good. There we go. All right. So on Wednesday, I'll be giving a full-blown webinar about the WordPress for Toastmasters software, everything that a club webmaster, club leader would need to know to set up one of these sites from scratch. I'm not going to go over all of that today, but I want to cover the essentials that you would need to know if you got pulled into a club that has made the mistake of using this software and you need to rearrange the agenda for some purpose. So I'm going to start by showing just a print agenda. This is from Club Awesome. So this is a brick and mortar club. It is set up as a printable agenda that has a sidebar on the left where we can squeeze in information about the dues that people need to pay, maybe something about an upcoming district conference, things like that. And then down the main part of the page, we have the layout of the agenda order of the meeting. Toastmaster introduces all the supporting roles. Then we go to table topics. We have a humorist, 5-minute break, 3 speeches, evaluations, great meeting. That's the way it's supposed to work. We also have a printable sign-up sheet that we can pass around at the meetings because not everybody is geared towards doing everything online. So we print this out, we pass it around. The VP of Education collects it at the end and then would go in and enter the information of people who've signed up. So to avoid messing up Club Awesome's website, I'm over here on my demo site, and we see a familiar setup. We can take a role, or as VP of Education or other leader, I can go in and edit the sign-ups here. So perhaps I heard from Abe Lincoln that he's not going to be able to make it tonight. He's got a theater date he's got to go to, so I hope he has a good time. And we can plug in other people. Maybe we have a substitution of one person's not going to be able to make it and another will sign up. We go down the list and we can plug people in as speakers. We can assign them to specific manual projects. And the software does try and calculate the time needed for those projects. We have a space down the bottom where we can put in information about our meeting theme, words of the day. We can put in that Abraham Lincoln is not planning to make it to the meeting at all, and we can save our changes. So what I really want to go over though tonight is what you want to do if you need to rearrange this meeting. Maybe you're going to have one longer presentation, and that means you can only have 2 speeches and you can't have table topics. So how do you rearrange things so that your agenda is now correct? Well, what we would do is we'd go to this label here is Agenda Setup. So that's going to change the setup for this specific meeting. We would go to Agenda Setup Template if we wanted to change it for all time, for how we normally run our meetings. But for now, let's just change it for this one meeting. And this is going to load in the WordPress editor, except that we see all these little colored buttons in here. Now, normally the WordPress editor is a web-based word processor. So it's a system that allows you to upload images, and you have your typical bold and italic controls. You can also add links to other web pages. So, but what's going on here with all these little colored buttons? Well, these are all placeholders for things that go on the agenda that also go on to the sign-up form. So here's our note that we have a 5-minute break. And if I look at this, I can edit that, and maybe we need to slim it down to be a 3-minute break. So I can change the time associated with that. So I think of these as being the stage directions for how we organize our meeting. And then we have the number of speakers is 3. So I said we're going to have a longer presentation. We're only going to have time for 2 speakers. And that means we only need 2 evaluators. And they won't need quite as long for that either. And if we were to look under the covers, there's actually some coding that corresponds to all these things that I'm setting here. So when I originally set this up for my own purposes, I just used the codes. As soon as I showed this to my VP of Education, she said, "Ah, there's no way I want to deal with that." And so the little buttons with the double click to pop up and change the options, that's meant to make it somewhat easier. Now, if I wanted to add a custom role, like logistics manager, we've got a couple of extra buttons up here. We have agenda note and Toastmasters role. So if I want to add a role, I can either pick from the standard list of roles, or I can add a custom one, like logistics manager, who's going to be the person who helps with the slide projector and such. And if I want to add a custom note, again, I just get this little pop-up where I can put in some text. And assign some time to be associated with that. And if I save this. We should now see that a few things have been changed. So we now have 2 speaker slots instead of 3, 2 evaluator slots instead of 3. A lot of the other stuff is the same, and if we looked at the agenda, we would see that the same information is flowing through to the agenda. So that's it for tonight. If you want to see the sequel, come by on Wednesday. Mr. Toastmaster.
Great. Thank you, David. Thank you. It's great to see behind the scenes what's going on. Graham, our timer, how did everybody do?
Mr. Toastmaster, the times for the 3 speeches, I've put the first 2 up and I'll put David's up in a moment, but Rachel spoke for 7 minutes and 14 seconds, Lois for 7:23, and David for 7:20, which means that all 3 are eligible to be voted upon as best speaker this evening.
Excellent. Thank you, Graham. Would you please cast your vote by sending a private chat message to Deborah for your favorite speaker this evening? And while you are doing that, I will introduce our topic master for this evening that will take over the next part of our meeting. Our topic master is Roger Fung, and he's going to, yes, absolutely, and I think he's going to do a great job with table topics this evening. Of course, Roger, you are aware that you are not supposed to call on the Toastmaster to answer a table topics question. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good time.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. For those who are here for the first time, if you move your mouse, look toward the bottom, you will see a button called chat. Click on that chat, then a chat box will appear onto your right-hand side. Then you can choose privately send that vote to Deborah Carr to pick your favorite speaker. With that said, today is the National Cherry Cheesecake Day in America. There are actually 4 National Cheesecake Days. There's a regular cheesecake day, the blueberry cheesecake day, the pumpkin cheesecake day, and the cherry cheesecake day. We have different style of cheesecake, like New York cheesecake, German style, Italian style. The question is, you are to create a new style of cheesecake with a new name. What is the name of your new creation? And what is so special about your new cheesecake? Elaine.
My cheesecake style is jumble style. It's the cheesecake creation you make when you use whatever happens to be on hand and you're given the challenge. So the cheesecake might include cream cheese, American cheese, or whatever kind of cheese you can find with some kind of binder. And of course, you have to find some kind of crust or crumb, so you might look around and see what you have. Cornflakes, sweetened cereal, or something like that. Quite a challenge to be given the challenge to make a jumble cheesecake. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine, for being creative and also using whatever is in front of you. While most of us are here in the US, many of us currently live, have lived, or were originally from another country, another culture. What is the one favorite desserts back home? Why should we try it, or why should we not try it? Sam Moran.
Mr. Table Topic Master, from El Salvador, what would be the best dessert? Well, I would say to be deep fried plantains. Why would you try it? Well, first of all, if they are ripe and deep in fresh oil, they taste amazing. And then if you take that and add a nice glass of cold milk, it's like heaven. It's like a match made in heaven, because the plantain sweetness is the best sugar high that you can get. Not only because it's natural, healthy, still makes you fat, but you can enjoy it more than just the regular sugar. Why would you want to try it? Well, like if you're like me and indulge too much on those things when you were growing up, your sugar levels are rising. So if you start taking those things over and over, your doctor will, smack your hand, or my girlfriend for that matter. So now I can only think about enjoying that luscious fried plantain, Mr. Topic Masters.
Thank you, Sam. I will tell you that even though you made it sound so wonderful, I hate plantain. I'll leave it at that. When you are trying to procrastinate and not want to do any work, what do? You Google. You spend 1 minute, and it turns into 5, and it turns into a couple of hours. And guess what I found? I found out that in Austria, you can find cheesecake flavor stamps. You have to lick it to taste it. Now, you love cheesecake so much. Besides stamps, where else or what else will you add cheesecake flavor to? You love cheesecake so much that besides stamps, where else or what else will you add cheesecake flavor to? Andy Byrne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Topics Master. Anyone that has watched television obviously has seen the commercials from the different yogurt companies. And if you listen to Dannon's ads, they have a cheesecake flavored yogurt that is delicious. It makes you think that you're actually eating cheesecake. There are others that are added as well. You can choose cheesecake, you can choose Boston cream pie, you can choose strawberry, but cheesecake is my favorite. I don't see the timer.
Timer is Graham.
Yeah. See, okay, I guess I need to be talking some more. We have a cheesecake factory not too far from my house. And when I want to look at different cheesecakes, they have a wide variety of cheesecakes. They have strawberry cheesecake, Boston pie cheesecake, chocolate chip cheesecake. They have blueberry cheesecake. They have a mocha cheesecake. They have a coffee cheesecake. There are many, many cheesecakes to go after if you go to the Cheesecake Factory, hence their name. Thank you very much, Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. Unbeknown to all of us, he has a second job at Cheesecake Factory and have memorized the menu. Now, after all this talk about cheesecake, you feel like having a little dessert after the meeting, right? But instead of cheesecake, what would you have instead? Instead of cheesecake, what would you have instead? A little dessert after this meeting. Jimmy. Not our Toastmaster, but Jimmy Dan.
Yes. So what would I have rather than cheesecake? Is that the question? What would I have other than cheesecake? Well, my family is a combination of Italian and Belgium. And my mother's side of the family was Belgium. And my grandmother, what she would bake for desserts was Belgian pies. And Belgian pies are fruit pies, but they don't have a crust on top. They just have the crust on the bottom, and the fruit filling is all open, and that's the way it's baked. And I came to love those. Now, my grandmother also loved bacon, which is a big fad. So I could also imagine if she was ever to make a cheesecake, which she never has, she would probably use the crust of crumbled bacon for the bottom crust of a cheesecake. And then use a cheesecake filling and add crumbled bacon on top. and that would be a bacon cheesecake. And I've never heard of anybody doing it, but I can imagine somebody doing it because they've done so many other things with bacon. But Belgian pies is what I love, and I'd love to see a Belgian pie made with bacon crust too. Back to you, Roger.
Thank you, Jimmy. If we see the bacon-laced cheesecake at Cheesecake Factory, we know Andy stole it from Jimmy.
Yeah.
With that said, Mr. Timer, may I have your timer's report, please?
Certainly, the timing for the three table topics who are eligible: Sam 1:15, Andy 1:03, Jimmy 1:30. Elaine was unfortunately short of the 1 minute mark and so won't be eligible for best topic speaker tonight.
And our word of the day, grammarian's report, please.
Thank you, Roger. Well, there was. I've got to admit, I earned my grammarian role. I got so intense in those 3 speeches. They were excellent speeches. So I lost my ways. I was so intent listening to them. But I did notice a few things. I really liked Rachel's. Some of Rachel's, she had very descriptive phrases all through her speech. So that was excellent. And Lois, the same also. The phrases were, you could actually feel it in your body. So, and I really like Lois's title. That was a massage generation in the workforce. What an excellent array of words that Lois come out with the speech. That got us all interested. David, he did the same. The really one I really liked is I don't want to deal with that, from the VP of Education, which was excellent. The grammatical, everybody was pretty on song. Advanced Club, it's really hard to pick one thing or not. The winner of the word of the day has got to go to Lois, very closely followed by Roger. And I didn't really hear much more of procrastinate from anybody else, but well done to everybody. You did exceptionally well, especially the table topics speakers. They had some really good phrases, and well done to everybody. And I look forward to doing this role again so I can pick on you a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grammarian. Before I turn the control back to our Toastmaster of the day, would you please go ahead and cast your vote for your favorite table topic speaker, and that is Sam, Andy, or Jimmy, and send it privately to Deborah Carr. Sam, Andy, or Jimmy? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Roger, and thank you for not calling on the Toastmaster with those questions. Everybody was entertained, everybody was educated, and now I think everybody is hungry. Let's move on to the evaluation portion of our meeting. Our first evaluator is evaluating Rachel's presentation. Oh, and it's Morali. Morali, would you please give us your evaluation, please?
Rachel, you did a wonderful job of telling a story with a purpose. I really enjoyed your story. A story can actually create or recreate the mental image of what's happened in my life. My cousin, when he was young, and my son when he was younger, he cut his ears. And it is not like he's not taking the ears to another place, but he was trying his hair cutting skills. So that was the story rekindled on me. Coming back to a story, this is a story of a Vincent van Gogh, who is an post-impressionist painter. You develop the 2 characters. One is the Vincent van Gogh, and the other one is Paul Gauguin. Sorry about the pronunciations. So Paul Gauguin is a contemporary co-painter, and you develop the 2 characters well. And you explained how Vincent was very dependent on his brother, both financially and emotionally. So that was the reason which made him to cut off his ear. There was an interesting theme. Why did he cut off his ear, his own ear? Because his brother, Paul Gauguin, sent a letter about his engagement. So that created a sense of instability within his own mind. And because he is already mentally unstable, so that prompted him or impulsed him to cut his own ears. So you have brought this development of the characters pretty well. So the good thing that you did was show one of the sample pictures that Vincent made. And then he also explained about his co-painter's argument about why you are doing that. You used the descriptive words, and you also used inquisitive words and their impact on their paintings. So these are the pretty good impressions. So some of the things you may work on is everyone is nervous. You don't have to tell that I'm nervous. So if you tell that, you are obviously highlighting that negative aspect of your feelings. You don't have to do that. So next time, please avoid telling that you are nervous. Other one is you seem to be, when you are speaking, you seem to be moving your head and body back and forth. So that makes the image, because of the bandwidth problems, a little distort of your face and sync movement. So you can avoid those things. So better, other than this, you did a great job. I look forward to your next speech. Thank you, Rachel. Bye. Back to you, Toastmaster, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Murali. Our second presenter this evening was Lois, and evaluating Lois, we have John. John, how did Lois do?
Good evening again, everyone. Good evening, Lois. It is a pleasure to return the favor of evaluation. I was super thrilled to kind of volunteer myself into this because it's always a challenge to evaluate a distinguished Toastmaster. And I want to make sure that I do it the right way. So I usually follow the script, and I will do so the same today, but because it's slightly different in this situation, I did not expect the title at all. Massage generations into your workforce. First, I thought it's like message, and then I read it twice, and then I realized the purpose of your title, of how you are actually nudging them into the right direction. Your speech project was getting comfortable with visual aids, and you used appropriate visual aids. PowerPoint is one of the most effective visual aids that some people do not like to use because they think it distracts the audience, but when you're using it to complement your message, it really does make a difference, and it really worked out well for you. It really helped me understand and clearly see the purpose of your speech project. So the way you transitioned between the specific generations and the way you explained everything, it was definitely clear to me, because not only that you use the visual aid effectively, you also used effective colors, the contrasting colors, so it was easy for me to see. The font size was excellent. Majority of times when I recommend to others and to myself is to follow the 10-20-30 rule when it comes to PowerPoint presentations, to have 10 slides within 10 minutes, 20 slides, 30-point font. And you used approximately around that area, even though your speech was shorter. Your purpose was definitely present there. And even though I am aware of generation gaps and certain differences between them, because I'm on the borderline between Generation X and Generation Y, so I picked up both, so I could really relate to your speech. Your speech was well researched. I noticed that you even listed some of the things at the top of the screen, but I wasn't sure. So in the future, maybe you could point out that under the title of each of your slide, was that a resource? And if it was, maybe you can state it, because it will be more clear to the audience to understand where you got that information. I also would like to recommend for you to pause at times. I know that the speech is not long and you could not compress all that information, but at times I really needed to super pay attention because you really transition throughout the speech without pausing. And that would also help you increase the audience interaction, because it was just a narrative. And even though we were really compelled to listen, I was really compelled to listen, I was expecting, like, can you relate to this part, or can you find something else around that? So to recap, work on listing your resources or addressing them directly to the audience. Increase the audience interaction through pauses and some questions. But overall, I'm super thrilled to have evaluated you, and I'm looking forward to your next speech. Congratulations.
Thank you, John. And our third presenter this evening was David, and we have evaluating David's presentation, Adrienne. Adrienne, how did David do?
Of his speech was to select visual aids that are appropriate for your message and the audience. I wasn't sure if I was muted. Sorry about that. And to use visual aids correctly with ease and confidence. David is an expert at this. He was very knowledgeable of his content. He knew exactly the message that he wanted to deliver. He did a great job of including the actual program on the monitor so we can actually see him in real time, make those adjustments, and show us how to make those changes. He did a great job. He was knowledgeable, and he already knew what 2 areas that he was going to talk about, because that was required that he did 2 of them. What I think David could have done a little bit better was to ask the audience, who in the audience has this problem with the agenda? That would have gotten us engaged right from the front, because we would have been able to say, yes, we've had this problem where we're trying to figure out the agenda. I understood because I was the VP using the software and I had the problem and David had to help me through it. So I thought that was very on point for me. I knew exactly what he was doing. However, if you were new to this software, it may have been a little too fast for them to pick it up, and you may have had to slow it down just a little bit. And the way you could have done that was in the beginning to identify the problem that people have. How do you modify the agenda for a number of speakers that may change? For example, a contest. Tell us the solution. There is a way that you can go and modify the parameters in the back office so that you can make these adjustments. And then thirdly, to show us how to do that. In the beginning of the speech, if you open it with that and tell us what you're going to do, show us, and then come back and close, that would have helped us to follow more smoothly with what you were trying to do, and it would have been a little bit more clearer. You know your content. There's no doubt about that. You're an expert in your field, but your audience may not know what you're talking about. So you may lose them in the beginning because you are so good at what you do. So I really don't have anything negative to say. You did a great job. You used the software appropriately. You timed it good. I didn't think you would finish in the time frame, but you did. You did a great job, and you met all the objectives of the speech. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. Appreciate that. And Graham, our timer. Did everybody qualify?
Yes, sort of. Murali 3 minutes 7, Adrian 2:41. John actually went 3:32, but I had gone to his red light about 15 seconds late, so that's not really fair. So I'm going to say that he was within time as well, because it was my fault.
That sounds good. Would everybody please cast your votes by private chat to Deborah? And while you are doing that, I will take us into the home stretch by introducing our general evaluator this evening, Jim Dent.
Okay, thank you. First, I wanted to ask everybody, raise your hand if you've ever procrastinated. Okay, I'm going to assume the rest of you will answer that later on. Tonight's meeting was pretty good. It started on time. That's an important thing to do. Always started on time. I think David and the other leaders who have started this have been very consistent at starting this meeting on time. Excellent speakers. I love the table topics. Good topic, good questions. They really got people to think. They're thought-provoking questions. We had a little mix-up right after table topics of trying to call on some functionaries, a little bit out of order. We usually don't do that until after the evaluators are finished. And I do remember somebody making a comment about that, and I don't remember who it was in the chat. And we're going to wrap up and finish this on time, or pretty close on time. So that's all I've got to say. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody for making my first time as Toastmaster of the Day so much fun. I think I've done everything I need to do, so I would return control to David Carr, our president, except I have no idea how to return hosting power back to you.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I should tell you for future reference, you go into the participants panel, you hover over my name, and you should see a little pop-up thing that says make host. We don't really need that at the moment. We do need, however, to hear from Deborah who our winners for the evening were.
And here we are. We have as the speaker, drum roll, boom, 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 excuse me, Lois, table topics, excuse me, Jimmy did it, and John for the evaluator. There we are.
Okay, terrific. I did want to mention to Elaine, you've been here a couple of times. If you do want to join, the rule for people who don't have Toastmasters experience is you're supposed to make a table topic length speech about why you want to join the club. We could take a moment and do that now if you're interested, or you can come back after you've decided. I don't know if you're ready to jump or whether we can push you.
I am not ready to jump. I want to make a better pitch when I'm ready.
Okay.
I do want to say I am appreciating on this second visit here, not only the level of the skill of the Toastmasters, but the level of skill that's required for the evaluators when the Toastmasters are at that level. And so my decision to join would be, am I ready for this challenge yet? I have to feel into that, but I thank you for this opportunity to be in this wonderful medium and sharing the experience with you, and especially the levity of the fine people here.
All right. And we'd like to hear from some of our other guests as well. We have a few people here who for the first time tonight. Shantaine, just very briefly, give us a little bit of your reaction.
Well, I think it's the coolest thing ever.
All right, well, we agree.
Yes, it was very interesting. I have been a part of Toastmasters for several years, and so I was curious on how you could translate that to an online, and this went really well. I was very much amazed in how smoothly it went. You didn't need a whole lot of technical knowledge in order to do this, and just being able to see people from all across the world, and I really like it a lot. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. We are past 9 o'clock, but I'm still going to call on a couple of people. If anybody needs to bail out, feel free. But Tanya, can we get a little bit of feedback from you? Let's see. Hold on, I didn't unmute you yet. You're unmuted now.
I didn't unmute myself either. So slight technical hitches when I came in to start with, but other than that, I enjoyed it. I found it very educational in the use of technology with a group of people. So I'm very interested in coming back for another visit and seeing how we go from there.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you back. Let's hear from Rupali.
I second Shantaine. This is the best thing ever. Ooh. And thank you, Roger, for inviting me. I really didn't know anything like this existed. I am a technical trainer, and I wish I knew about this long time ago, because I do online trainings and things like that, and I see this being extremely helpful in developing my skills further.
Okay. Well, we hope we come to see you back.
Thank
Nick
you.
Smith, what did you think?
To Appellees, she's going to sign up right now.
Okay.
Well, David, thank you. Thanks everyone for inviting me here. I found myself more self-conscious of my face always being able to be seen by everyone than I do at normal brick and mortar meetings. So that was an interesting aspect of this for me. But I had a good time, and I appreciate it. Not much else I had. Just very interesting stuff. Thanks.
All right. And I'm sorry, it's Aniska, is it? I'll unmute you.
All right, yes, and like Shantine and Rupalia said, it was amazing. I'm new to the technology, and I look forward to coming back again, and the topics were very timely. We just did an assignment on using visuals. Louis, I enjoyed your presentation thoroughly. Thank you, everyone, for having me here this evening, and I look forward to joining Toastmasters one day.
All right. Folks, have anything else we should address before we wrap up for this evening? All right, hearing none. Have a great week, everybody. I didn't pester you about signing up for next week, but whoever's Toastmaster of the day, they're going to be after you. All right. See you later.
Next week, Monica is the Toastmaster of the day. She will be sending message out to you guys.
Okay. Thanks all.
David, you might want to remind everybody that they can save the chat if they want to have a hard copy.
Oh, yeah. If anybody wants to save the chat, there are links and other things in the chat. There's a little button that says More, and under that, there's an option that says Save Chat. I'll save it to your computer if you would like to do that.
Have a fun week.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.